Hi, and a very good evening to all our guests. I am so excited to host you on this webinar by upGrad Abroad on a master's from a top 50 world-ranked business school in France. My name is Rakhi Talukdar, and I am from the University Partnerships team at upGrad. Now, if we speak of France, France, apart from being a luxury capital of the world, is also among the top 5 study destinations for international students, drawing more and more students every year for reasons such as affordability, scholarship opportunity, and quality education. In fact, if we speak of France, France also happens to be the number 2 country in the world for Triple Crown accredited business schools. And today we are here to speak of one such school, that is the Rennes School of Business. So we have with us, and it's my honor to welcome Maud, who is the South Asia manager for Rennes School of Business. And Maud is here to answer any questions that you may have regarding education in France, or more so regarding the program at Rennes. So thank you so much for being with us today, Maud.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for for the audience to be there with us today.
Thank you. Maud, before we begin, if you can just give us a quick introduction about yourself.
Oh, right. So I am the South Asia area manager for Rennes School of Business, a triple accredited business school from France. I'm an alumni from that school as well. I live in Bangalore, so I've been on and off for 12 years and a half in India, overlooking South Asia region. I'm also the former chairman of the Higher Education Committee of the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce, because everywhere we are very close to companies. And I'm currently a trade advisor to the French government. So I was nominated by the Prime Minister of France to provide advisory on higher education matters, to make the relationship between our two countries very strong, and particularly, and not only to make France attractive to Indians, but to make India attractive to French students as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Maud. I think that's a wonderful introduction, and I think you have been working with both Indian and French students for a very long time, and I think you would be the best person to guide our audience about education in France. Now, to begin with, because of the fact that France is emerging as a hotbed of education, and it's becoming very popular among students. So what is it that makes France a highly attractive study destination?
Oh, but you have mentioned a few things. So for me, France was the first destination in terms of triple accredited school. There are currently 18 schools out of 100 that are triple accredited. So it's a hub for excellence in education and management. Not only, we are a country that is the size of Karnataka, and it's the second country in the world for the number of field medalists, for instance. So that's the equivalent to a Nobel Prize for mathematics. We are the third country for the quality of our universities in the Shanghai ranking. So the first reason is the quality of education, not only in management, in science, and in engineering subjects as well. It comes also from affordability, as you were mentioning. In fact, we welcome 4 lakh international students every year. That's only a bit less than 10,000 a year from India. So the rest of the world has understood what they could get from France, and India is yet to really, consider it. But one of the reasons is affordability, indeed. So the public universities are free of cost, just like Germany. But you have also a lot of private universities of excellent level that are still quite affordable, even versus equivalent schools in India.
Sure.
So I mean, that's what you access, and they're worldwide recognized, as I said. But on top of that, if you're coming as an international student, you are treated the same as a domestic student there. So you get public health system for free.
Wow.
We're talking about hospitalization that is free of cost, but also if you go to a doctor outside of the hospital and to buy your prescribed medicine, which I wouldn't use, be happy to use right now. I'm sorry for my voice. So if you do that, at least 70% of what you spend there is reimbursed by the French government,
Wow.
which is better than a private insurance here.
Private
It
insurance.
doesn't stop there. So your health is taken care of. But also, if you're less than 28-year-old, your students, whether you are French or international, it's the same. You get access to an accommodation allowance that represents 30% of your rent on average, reimbursed by the French government to your account. So it's like you pay 450 euros per month for, a decent apartment. You get 150 euros that come back on your account. And I think there are not a lot of countries that are, that generous, I would say. It doesn't stop there. For Indian students in particular, you must be aware that the relationship between our two countries, France and India, are very strong. And we want to attract more Indian students. So extra care is taken here. If you're coming from India, the French government last year distributed 15 crore INR equivalent of scholarship. So they're not going to stop that. There's quite a lot of options here, and something you should try to grasp as well.
Thank
So
you.
that's the second thing. Yeah, I mean there would be many reasons.
Yeah, I think that's a very comprehensive list of reasons for why learners would choose France. And I think towards the end, you covered some very important pointers as to how an Indian citizen is considered at par with a French citizen, and they are eligible for a host of benefits. And I think when students are going abroad, one of the key things that they factor in is expenses. And it's a huge deal to have 70% of your medical expenses reimbursed. And like you said, for your minor children, education is also free of cost. Now, I want to understand, because when students are considering a move abroad, they are essentially considering several other countries, and Europe in itself is a hotbed for business education. So would you say that France is offering something that the other countries are perhaps not?
Yes, I mean, I was explaining the quality is definitely there. You have to understand. So in a territory that is about the size of Karnataka, that's the size of France. You get as our local competition, we have HEC, ESSEC in SEAD that are excellent schools. And HEC just got the first rank for both MBA and MIM, for instance. This is our local competition. It's like having in Karnataka not only IIM Bangalore, but also IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Kolkata. And this is what we have to compete with for the French student market, I would say. So it's driving everyone to excellence. And this is something that is really unique. The reason also behind such a level of the high level of recognition for the quality of education in management is because we have a very experiential type of learning. So and it's not new, it's been there for a long time. I used to be the talent supply manager for Procter & Gamble, which is an American company in different countries in Europe. And only France was welcoming a lot of interns and had, an organization that could welcome students from a very young students, still the ones that are about to leave the school. So we were preparing, very well future managers by allowing them to have an experience within our company. And that was unique. The other country, if I'm talking about UK, they were, I was having 400 interns a year in the French, Procter & Gamble. In the UK, my colleague were struggling to get 10 offers and 10 students interested for a 3-month internship. So you see the difference. On top of that, because companies so very early on, they have been proposing internship at various stages of studies for the students. But they were, they would potentially abuse that because it's, it's so simple. You get someone you were not before having to pay them, though in master in management, for instance, you were pretty sure to get paid. But today it's mandatory for companies to pay you when you do an internship. So not only you have a chance to be really exposed to what you would like to do in the end, to build your CV clearly, but on top of that, you are paid for it. So you don't need to rely on a part-time job on the side.
Okay.
This year, in the past 2 years, I would say, the French government is going even further for two reasons. And there are a lot of sources you can find on the World Economic Forum with the future of work in Europe. The latest big analysis was done in 2020. And you have a McKinsey report that says very much the same. They have little bit of differences on percentage, but more or less they're saying that by 2030, overall Europe will be missing out on about 11 million people with the right skills. And on top of that, we would have to retrain 25 to 40% of the current working population. And this means we have to prepare ourselves for the aging of this working population, and for the fact that the skills that we used to need, they are changing.
Redundant.
So the French government has responded a certain way, because we are already at a war on talent in France. We are the lowest unemployment rate right now since 1981.
Wow.
Since 1981, imagine.
Yeah.
So we are on our way to what we call full employment.
Full employment.
So to prepare for that, so not only we had to ask the people to retire a bit later, to come back from to have a bit lower of unemployment benefit, made sure that the work-study format, apprentissage, would be developed tremendously. We went from 7 lakh of those work-study formats, where the company may or may not be paying your fees, but they would be paying you 1.3 million of such contract, thanks to a push of the government, so that the youth of France is even more prepared to start working in those companies in the end. So there is a lot that is happening, and I think it's something to grasp. That means that companies, they are used to recruit young people. They are ready to give a chance to youngsters, and our students are very well prepared for the workplace.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important point. It means that the time is right for students to consider, because I think the very fact that France has increased their retirement age is to say that, yes, they are in need of skilled professionals. Absolutely. And, Maud, you spoke of the fact that when it comes to education in France, and this is a point that I would like you to elaborate upon, you spoke of the fact that business education in France is very experiential. And even when we speak of the program at Rennes, and that is the MSc in Logistics and Supply Chain Management, this is a work integrated program. Right. So
you have two choices with us. Either you do a full-time program within which you will anyway have to have a minimum of 4 months of professional experience in an internship, and an internship that has to do with what you've learned, of course. So the content of the internship matters a lot.
Yes.
Or you could do it in a work study format, which is a proposition we have with upGrad. So you could be studying 1 week a month, and the other 3 weeks you can be in a company. Or you can do, so either you've managed to get yourself an apprentissage contract, which is like a full employment contract through an apprentissage mode, so through an education part. It's quite difficult to get from India, of course, but why not? Or you come and you will have to do an internship on a contract of internship of a minimum full-time equivalent of 4 months. For instance, if you come in September, that means you could start it in March, and you'll be done by end of August. And you can still get the relevant level of experience that is required to graduate.
Absolutely. I think
it means that you can really fund you can fund your stay, because you will be paid during your internship while learning,
Yes. And how is that really structured? Is it going to be like you are going to have 3 weeks of study and then 1 week of internship, or does it work this way?
No, it's the other way around. It's 1 week. It's 1 week per month in school, 3 weeks per month that you are in a company. Then it's quite interesting for the company, obviously, in
Yes.
such a way.
Right. Maud, it would be great if, since you are also carrying a presentation, and I'm sure our learners would like to have an overview of the curriculum, our learners who are interested in supply chain and management, it would be great if you can just give us a walkthrough of that.
Of course, let me show you the program. So we have normally our masters, they are 2 years masters now. We have the possibility to allow you to come directly in the second year of the master. If you have done 240 ECTS, so it could be your bachelor's 3 years plus, the IMT certificate with upGrad, which would be a 60 ECTS by the time you come. And then you get directly into the second year of a master. That would be a full master degree that is given also by the French government, which means it's going to be considered the same as a master degree in India. We have an MOU of mutual recognition of degrees, and it goes on this kind of grad master. Okay. So in the second year, you will come in early September, and you start with a seminar called Leadership and Collaborative Intelligence Seminar. So it's a great way to have, team building activities while learning and while doing. An example, I mean, we have, for instance, this design sprint that happens every year for the Master in Management. This is an equivalent, but adapted for supply chain that will be done for those students over there. So you'll be working on a real life project for a company that has, specific, problems that they would like to be to find innovative solutions for. And so you'll spend a week to work on such projects straight when you come. Then you will have those different modules that would happen throughout the year. Advanced Production System and Industry 4.0, Research Methodology in Supply Chain Management. That's a grad master. That means that you could be going for a PhD after, and therefore a graduating project is there. And it is important that we train you to be able to have the ethics, but also the capacity to deliver research. So you'll have one semester on this. Sustainable supply chain, one module, of course. Sustainable supply chain and green logistics. This is one area where we are very well recognized for the quality of the research worldwide we're doing in that field, and it is very much happening. So it's something that is quite important to know, particularly in Europe. One of the changes in terms of the skills that would be in need in Europe is the sustainability capacity. Strategic sourcing and contract negotiation. When you work in logistics, you may work also in purchasing, in supply chain. I mean, you may work also in purchasing, and that's one of the elements that is covered. The planning of distribution and transportation management is also covered in this program. Inventory management and warehousing, which is, again, between purchasing and logistics. Then you have those 3 specialization courses: supply chain project management, supply chain analytics and digitalization, supply chain risk and disaster management. And then you have a learning expedition we sent you outside of the school. You'll be visiting companies, for instance. So that's part of the program. French language would be there. Yeah. It's not required to know French to go to France, but it's gonna be helpful in a career that is international by essence. So the more international languages you speak, the better. And French is quite an interesting one to know, because 50 countries around the world speak French as their second language. So you have a chance here to start learning. I would advise to start earlier than that, indeed. But yes, this is part of the content. And we have career development activities, of course, to help you, find those internships. We will never place you. I want that to be very clear. Nobody places outside of India. Will not put you at the interview stage with companies directly. Never will we guarantee this. It's your responsibility to make it happen. But we're pretty happy with the results that our students have had, and we still are bringing a lot of companies on our campuses. To give you an idea, last year in November, they were just in one day, and we do more than one day, obviously. We had 175 companies who came on our campus, and they were presenting, various type of roles within their companies. We just made sure that not only the students were having an opportunity to speak to a representative of companies, but also they could mature their career projects.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. In fact,
Yes,
I'm happy to tell you that the price is no longer 16,500, but just dropped to 15,000 euros. I need to change that. It's a bit less, and that's a good news for everyone, I think.
Yes, I think that's a great
Which
news.
is 13.5 lakh INR. That's what it means.
That's what it means.
For a full master degree, yeah.
And that is, I think, almost half the amount that you would pay for an MBA at many of the business schools, even in India. And you are going to get an international experience and exposure out of it. And I think there are very good reasons to choose Rennes School of Business, as you've mentioned, Maud. And some of the learners have actually asked a question that which university are we talking about here? So we're talking about the Rennes School of Business, and
Rennes School of Business.
Yes, Rennes School of Business. And this is a triple accredited business school, one of the triple accredited French business schools. And, we will discuss more about what it means to be a triple accredited or triple crown business school. And also the program that we are speaking of here, which is an MSc in Logistics and Supply Chain Management. It is ranked amongst the top 50 supply chain programs in the world. Right. And, Maud, here, I would also, like if you can speak of how this program, which is ranked so highly, is different from the other programs that are out there. And also, does the ranking suggest that it's very competitive to get through it otherwise?
All right. Two interesting questions. Yeah. So what makes it stand apart? I think it's the first. We are triple accredited school, and part of it is linked to the research we do, and we have a full labs area of excellence in research in logistics. So logistic AI-enabled, logistic in sustainable supply chain and green logistics, these kind of aspects. We have professors that are, delivering research that is, in the top journals around the world. We have just, hosted an international conference with really top level researchers from all around the world in the field of logistics. So we were entrusted to organize it in our Paris campus this year. So this is coming directly in the content of the course. So that's the first thing. It's highly specialized. You see, there's very little that is not purely supply chain here. You're at the last year of your studies at some point, especially because that doesn't require to have experience. Even though if you're going through the upGrad system, you're probably going to be working this year while studying with the IMT certificate, and come to the school and get also exposure in the second year. But it doesn't require the experience. So it is, very important that at some point you get a highly specialized expertise, because that would make you much more attractive for companies to provide you with responsibilities, in fact. So this is what we are bringing. We are also very close to companies, as I was explaining before. We were created, so Rennes School of Business was created in 1990 by the local Chamber of Commerce. So by companies of the region in the northwest of France, Brittany. And at that time, it was very much data and agribusiness oriented. A lot of logistics in there, on both data sector and agribusiness, as you can imagine. And those companies, being very much export and internationally oriented, they wanted to develop international talent locally for their own needs. And that's why from day one, we started recruiting professors from abroad. And we have now 85% of our professors that are not French, coming from 48 different countries. We have 100 nationalities represented among our students. So it's really quite vast. You have the world coming there, which makes also the experience much more, differentiating, I would say, because you would have had the chance to troubleshoot what it means to work with someone that is so different from you, because there are a lot of things that can happen. I can testify of my own experience in this. I've been working since I left the school in 2004. I have worked on 3 different continents. And yes, I have faced, the difficulties there is to be a French person, a bit too direct sometimes, in Asia, for instance, where it's not so easy to know whether someone says a real yes or it's a no or it's a maybe. So yeah, you have to learn, and the best moment to learn that is during your studies when it doesn't really matter for your career. So you have this kind of exposure, which is tremendously interesting, because our professors come from all around the world. It comes from Russia, Ukraine, Australia, China, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. I mean, that's just how it is. We have from Middle East, we have from Africa, we have from Brazil, Colombia, US, Canada, and of course, Europe. So the content is not European centric, which is also key if you want to work in that field. So I think the combination of this makes the program quite different, and really adapted to what companies would be looking for in the end. You would have seen probably that the content of this course is very much production oriented, but also data oriented. You have quite a lot of the 2 elements that are covered there. And that's where most of the roles in supply chain would be currently, and where the investment will be mostly. Okay. And I can add to that in Europe in particular right now, especially after COVID, where we want to be more resilient. We don't want to depend on China anymore as much as we did in the past. So it means that there is currently a trend of repatriating some of the industry, and it's possible because of a lot of automation happening, a lot of robotization that is happening. But it means also we will multiply the partners and diversify the partners. India being a strong contender. I don't know if you know that France is one of the 5 countries listed on the Make in India page. So there's a lot happening here. So yeah, I mean, that's a combination of all this, I would say. And the second question, I'm sorry, I forgot it. What was your second question?
Second question that I had asked is, also does the ranking suggest it's highly competitive, which means that if ideally a learner would have to go via the direct route, it would be more difficult to get into.
Well,
also more when we cover that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just
I will not say it.
Okay. Please go on.
Not in the sense of the maybe what the IMs would do, because we value the diversity of students. So unlike an IIM here in India, where there would be 1 million of applicants for basically 10,000 seats, they have no choice. They have to have those GMAT. They have to have those things. We can afford to look beyond those tests and to take the time to individualize our selection. So I think it's compared to getting into an IIM, it's easier for someone from India, for instance. From France, not necessarily. Okay, we have a whole set of written exams and oral exams to go through. But yeah, I think an Indian students for them would be easier. But you still need to be a first division student, of course. We need to believe that you have a chance to succeed, and you need to have the right motivation for this specialized course.
Absolutely. Yes. And also you've spoken about the fact that you value diversity, and many of our learners here would have probably have no work experience in logistics or supply chain management, and probably no educational background also. So which are the kind of profiles you are looking at, or who would get a preference over others?
I would say, like, for instance, if you're coming from a BA in English, for instance, and want to go there, I don't know. It might be okay as long as you, for instance, you have developed yourself in other languages, and language can be an asset in a career logistic. But you'll have to make to make us understand why you made those choices. And clearly, a first year more generalistic with IMT to have the basics of management would really be useful. If you're coming from engineering, whether you come from the IT sector, industrial engineering, mechanical engineering, it all makes sense to do a course in logistics and specialize in logistics. You're not going to learn about the rest of management, but it's a good combination of skills. It makes sense to us. Career wise, it makes sense. If you come from management as well, of course, because but provided you know why, what exactly you want to do in logistics, you'll have, if you do IMT plus TM2 with us, it's 2 years that you'll have to make that transition. But yeah, you better think about the real type of careers there very early on. So my advice to candidates here would be to focus really on the careers than most, the name of a course before all. Really, what is those masters are only a mean to an end, and the end matters the most. And the more specific it is, you can make a lot of research on LinkedIn, on to understand what it means to do logistics, what kind of career you could have, and why therefore you think it's for you. And then you can look at the skills that are required and look back on your own profile and see what's the best option for you to reach there. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Maud. And of course, every university is going to look at a very clear intention for what you intend to do during the program and afterwards for you to get an admit. And here also we have a very specific question from our learners. So they have mentioned that they've completed their LLB, which is a bachelor's in law, 2018, and they also hold a 1 year of work experience. It would be great if you can tell us if this work experience is in law or any other field. But their question is, will they be eligible for this course? And in that sense, Maud, does the IMT work as a bridge also? Because the IMT is like a foundational course of management. Yeah.
So here again, it depends what you would like to do. I would say that having a law background, and I think anyway, it's like business and law, if I'm not wrong, the LLB is the case. So it's already there. There is an aspect, especially in purchasing, that is quite juridical oriented. So international law, the Incoterms, it's as much commercial as a juridical kind of environment. So it's not odd, I would say, but you still have to go a bit deeper and think of the career you would like to do. But if you're someone who is interested in logic, because supply chain is really much about logic, about concrete results, and you would like to make a difference, for instance, on environmental impact of companies. Clearly, this is an amazing, career to get into, because you can really make a difference here. So if that's what you have in mind, why not? Give it a try. And as you were explaining, Raki, if you have done this IMT certificate, you will have anyway an overview of business first, and you can more easily, have a year of specialization there that is in logistic purely. That works,
That works. Great. Also, Maud, as we speak, a lot of our learners are questioning about the career options about this course. And here, I would like you to speak on the fact that although Rennes School of Business is in Rennes, their main campus is in Rennes, the location for this particular program is at Paris. So I believe that's very strategically located.
Apparently now it's for the work study program, you will be either in Rennes or in Paris. Both of those places are great to be. Rennes being less expensive and being a big employment hub, particularly in industry. So we're surrounded by the sea, over there. I said that there's a lot of agribusiness, a lot of data. So obviously, you'll have a lot of opportunities in logistics and in supply chain over there already. But to give just an idea, I will link sustainable supply chain and Rennes. The school, for instance, is a partner of a company called Grain de Sel, which is which has been able to implement the transport of goods through sailing. So without any motor, so sailing boats that are using the wind to distribute goods and move goods from some suppliers to other places. So you see, this is a complex one. There's a lot of constraint, and this is an example of a very interesting company to work for instance. And that's easy from Rennes as much as it will be easy from Paris. The distance between the two places is only 1.5 hours by bullet train. So if you're in Rennes, you're not going to miss out on opportunities in Paris. If you're in Paris, you're not going to miss out on opportunities also in Rennes. So you should not necessarily consider that as a requirement. But if you want to be in Paris because you think you'll have more opportunities, it's possible as well. Okay, just the cost of living is higher, so you better, make sure that you negotiate higher in terms of stipend from the company when you look for opportunities. Both of them make sense, I would say.
Sure.
And from both of them, you can go everywhere in Europe as well. So
Correct. Yes.
that's one of the advantage of coming to France versus UK, for instance, or versus Ireland, is that you have access to the Schengen zone. During your studies, during the 2 years post-study stay visa that this program is offering, not 5, by the way, post-study stay visa long stay. And then, I mean, once a company is ready to sponsor as you stay, there is no maximum number of years you can stay in France, and you can also look for opportunities in other countries. But yes, there are plenty of opportunities. And if we're talking about really concretely the jobs, I have past students from India that are working as a material specialist in Belgium in particular. I'm thinking of one like that, as demand planners, transportation planners. We have people working for instance, in Procter & Gamble. I have a lady who is a data analyst for the product supply branch. So that's an example. We have people who have worked for Airbus in operations, working for Peugeot in Rennes in operations. So that includes supply chain. It's quite vast. There are plenty of options.
Yes, and I think when we speak of the location, France happens to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Maud, it happens to be the second largest logistics market in Europe.
Oh yeah. There are big French companies in the field in logistics. So yes, there is a lot happening there for sure. Yes.
Sure. And Maud, if we speak of logistics, language is definitely a big part of it. I mean, it's a very crucial element, especially for jobs related to logistics. And this is also a question which many of our learners have, is about the necessity of knowing French in order to get work opportunities. So if I do not know French, does that act as a very significant barrier?
So no, most of the students that I mentioned, alumni now, were not speaking French when they came to us, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of them still do not, to my dismay, I would say. But I would really, so you can study there, survive without French. You don't need French to get into France. The visa doesn't require that if the program is fully in English. So that, unlike some other countries where they make it mandatory to have an A1 in their own language, this is not required in France. And if you can read English, which I'm pretty sure everyone today does, you can read French. It's the same alphabet. I don't know where you are from all, but I'm sure that if you're from the north part of India and you've never been afraid of going to places like Trichy in Tamil Nadu, for instance, I don't know, Trivandrum or some places in deep down Kerala, though you would not be able to read the signs there. So if you're not afraid in India to travel around, because not only you will not be able to read, but the people will probably not speak your languages there, I don't think you have a reason to be afraid of coming to a country where every sign you can read. Okay, and a majority of people speak English. I was 12 when Schengen was created. I'm going to be one of those aunties you're going to find in the streets that could give you some, some ideas of, to answer to your questions on where to go, etc. So really don't worry, but they would appreciate you make an effort of learning French, and you should be looking at that more in a different way. Look at this way. In India, in logistic roles, if you are in South India, for instance, you're from North India, you are not in a better position than me, French lady, to find a job there, because over there, knowing more than one regional language would be an asset. So if it's true in India, imagine around the world. The more international languages you speak, the better. You want to choose French, German, Arabic, Mandarin, Korean, whatever you want. Great, but please invest in that, because that would make a big difference in your career. And if you come to France, why not learning French? Because you are in a place where you can make it a fluency. I can tell you that for myself, so I'm French, and I was, in fact, English is my fourth language only. But yeah, because of the studies I did in Rennes, I had, expanded my number of languages, and it meant for when I was recruiting by Procter & Gamble as a fresher, just out of school, just the fact that I was speaking English, French, plus at least one other language, in fact, more than one, they gave me 500 euros per month extra salary. 6,000 euros a year is what they thought this was worth.
Wow.
And indeed, I've been using all those languages while I was working, though I was at first in France.
Yeah.
But it has a value. So don't look at this as a constraint.
Correct.
But look at this as an opportunity you're having.
Yeah, yeah. And that is to say, Rennes is anyway providing you the opportunity to learn French while you are studying. So all that you need is probably an open mind and yes, the willingness to put the work.
And I will add to that we won't ask you for admission only though, to have an IELTS of 6. If you have one, great. Anyway, it would be valid by the time you graduate, but you will still, for graduation, even American students or English students will have to do it. It's just a requirement by the Ministry of Higher Education and Research. You'll have to provide a 6.5 IELTS by the time you graduate. But let's say it's done. You have the year before you come to start learning French and to move it to a fluency by the time you're done with your studies. That's a great investment of your time. We don't ask you for GMAT. We don't ask you for any of those tests. Just, think of that opportunity you're having.
Great. And what if the learners are going to Rennes School of Business directly? Are they required, or is it strongly recommended that they know French language?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
As long as the course is in English, we don't ask for French.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
we waive off the English test for Indian students as long as you've done CBSE, ICSE, IB, of course, Cambridge, with at least 80% in 12s at your 12s in English module, and that's enough also for visa. If you've done state board, we can have a look at it, of course, but you may have to provide an IELTS to get into the school, or even our own test. Okay, that can be sufficient. And as visas, they follow the same rule. So the IELTS is not mandatory to be admitted.
IELTS is not mandatory to be accepted.
For me, it won't be because I'm French, but not for you.
Yeah.
Yes, I studied in French language, that's why,
before
going to the school.
Sure. So Maud, another question that I would like to bring up is that there has been a lot of conversation around the recent declaration by Prime Minister Modi of the 5-year post-study work visa or work extension that has been granted to Indian students. Now, of course, when it comes to France, it is only master's students who are eligible for a post-study work visa. But as some of us understand, this post-study work visa is for 2 years. So is this really a change or a new development, or are we talking about different kinds of visas here?
So exactly what Narendra Modi has said, it should be coming from the French government in the first place. And in fact, the content of the declaration was given in writing by both embassies the same evening. So there's been a craze. There's a big misunderstanding here. He only said 5-year post-study stay visa without saying if it was long stay or short stay. I have to tell you, it's short stay, multiple entry. So we already have 2 years post-study stay visa, long stay, for the sake of looking for a job in which you can work. And it doesn't stop there. Those two years is without the sponsoring of a company. The moment a company is ready to sponsor as you stay, there is no maximum number of years you can stay in France. Most of the time you get first 4 years and then you extend by more and more. And that's France, and you have the other country nearby that have also, that you access, because as a student and during those 2 years post-study stay visa, you access the whole Schengen zone, 27 countries, 3 months, every 6 months. Okay, so it really makes your search much easier and much broader. Now, let's say you want to come back to India or to go to another country outside of Schengen zone, for instance, but you still want to have to keep the relationship with Europe. You want to be able to travel whenever you want. you can, and that's been true for master degree graduate from France, from India, they were since 2013 already entitled to 5 years short stay, multiple entry for the sake of tourism and business. Okay, so this is still there. You come back to India, you want to go back to France whenever you want, you ask for this, and for 5 years, you can go for a short term. You'll have to come back, but you cannot work with this visa.
Okay, you cannot
Now,
work
the
with
difference, what has been added is only that students who have done just a semester exchange in a master degree in France are also entitled to this facility. That's it. Okay. I think what is very important to notice is the goal that the French government has given to go from not even 10,000 students today to 30,000 by 2030. That means that for serious students, it's going to be an ease for visa. That's what it means.
That's right.
For serious students, of course.
Yes, absolutely. So essentially, the 5-year visa that we are talking of is a circulation visa. And
exactly.
Yeah. So
when that means, because I mean, we really have to clarify what it means. It's not for work. It's not a work permit.
Yeah. And what is the duration that a learner can stay on that visa in France? So you said that they can
maximum 90 days at a time.
90 days at a stretch.
Then you have to get out and you can come back, but you cannot work.
You cannot.
You can do business. So for someone who wants to have an international career from India, from Dubai, from whatever, but that means that, you know, it's quite an advantage because a company doesn't have to sponsorize your visa every time you have to travel. That's a big plus.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
So that is almost similar, akin to the 10-year, let's say, multiple entry visa that you get in the US.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Maud, for the clarification. And of course, you know, when our learners are going to France or let's say any other country also, a lot of the learners go with an intention to settle down there. And often we do not have much clarity on how that roadmap is going to look like. For example, now we do know that once you complete your master's program, you get a 2-year of post-study work visa. And as you mentioned that this 2-year of post-study work visa is a job-seeking visa. That means you can comfortably look for a job, but you don't need that much time to look for a job. Now, after that,
I would be ashamed if you needed 5 years to, after a master degree from France to get, you know, to get your job. So, so it's a 2 years post-study stay visa. And I mean, most of our students, after 6 months, they transform it into a work permit.
Work permit.
And then you can just pile them up, you know, that's the way it is. And that's France. And then Germany has different rules. Netherlands has different rules, but you access them.
Yes. And
I do have students that have done a different country already since they left the school.
Yes. And how does that work, Maud? For example, let's assume I have gotten a job during that post-study work visa, and now I'm on a work visa. How does my roadmap look from there if my intention is to get PR in the next couple of years?
So I'm not an immigration officer, but what I can tell you is that we do have a lot of, and when I working for Procter & Gamble, there were a lot of international profiles. Some of them are still in France. It's been 20 years that I've left this company. No, I left more recently, but I started 20 years ago there, and I've worked for 6 years with them. I know a lot of those people who are still in France. Okay, some of them, they acquire the citizenship. It is possible to acquire the citizenship. There are conditions, of course, but it is possible. I don't think it's something you should be too worried about. Something also that is quite important to know, unlike India, for instance, when you're on employment visa here, it's linked to the company you work for. So if you change a company, you have to go back to France, reapply for a new employment visa, come back. Over there, no. The 4 years first work permit you're likely to have, it is not forcing you to stay in the same company. You'll be able to hop, you know, from one company to the other, even though it was sponsored by a company in the first place.
Yeah, that's great, Maud. Thank you for answering that question. And I believe that with that, we have covered broadly about the program and more so also about the regulations. And this has been so helpful. And this has given us so much insight. I do see my Q&A box, and there are a lot of questions from our learners. So I think we have 10 minutes, and hopefully most of those questions can be answered. So one of those questions, Maud, is how much will I earn during the study period? So because it's a work integrated, how much will I earn during that internship? That's basically the
That's
question.
really up to you to negotiate. What I can tell you is that minimum it should be 570 euros per week for a full-time program, per week, per month, sorry, per month. It's very rare that at master level you get that low, that low of an amount. I would say between 800 and 1,500 euros per month is likely to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
But I cannot promise. I can tell you what the law says, and then yeah, you will have to negotiate it.
Negotiated. And also when we speak of the work opportunities during the program, does the University Rennes School of Business actively help students to get these opportunities, or are students completely on their own?
But I would come in between of what you just said, like it's two extremes.
Okay.
So as I said, we will not place you. Let's be clear,
Yeah,
it's not going to
of course.
happen.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean you are completely on your own. We
Yeah.
have career consultants. We organize a lot of activities with
Corporate things.
companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's up to you to grasp. I have to tell you that so it's been 7 years now that I'm in this role, and we've learned. And it seems that the Indian students, I am very proud of them because they're really good. They're doing very well. A lot of them become valedictorian from their masters. So there is really everything to be proud of. But I know also that where you're coming from with this placement thing. And before, the career activities were not made mandatory, and a majority of Indian students were not taking advantage of it. And so for some time, yes, they were struggling because they've never learned how to approach companies. In fact, even in India, they didn't know how to do it in the first place. So coming there, they was, compared to French students who are with us, for instance, from the first year of bachelor, you do an internship. So if you are reaching at master, you would have done 5 internships. Imagine. So you need to put yourself at that level. So because we had that cultural element that was there, I have convinced the school about 3.5 years ago to make those career activities mandatory, some of them at least. And we saw a big difference because then, they started to, assist to all those conferences, ask the questions, and all this aspect of which is to learn about the new environment, the way companies like to be approached, understanding what it means to do, what's the name for a job that exists there, and is quite different from you will find here. This is something you will have to grasp on your own. It's a lifetime skills that you're learning here, which is to take care of your career on your own. So this, you're guaranteed to have access to all this, but we will not promise you to put you at the interview stage with companies. You have to do it on your own. That means you can also go beyond what just the school has to offer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Maud. Thanks for answering that question. The other question that we have is that, and this is from Abhishek, my brother, he has a brother who has done his diploma in nautical science in 2013. And,
interesting.
And he's he's 35 years old, and he also holds experience on board a ship. So would you suggest that this is a course for him? And how open would
it
you
all
be to
depends.
accepting? Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad an experience to have, clearly. I mean, the whole freight aspect, yes. But it's up to him. Is he interested in the roles that would be, on the ground and eventually dealing with organizing the transportation of ships, import, export. I mean, all this, maybe it's interesting, but this is a very different role, but it's not a bad background to have for sure. And the age is not a factor here. You can come to but you have to understand this is still a pre-experienced program. So we will never guarantee that you'll have people who have the same level of experience than you. Now, if you have the idea of staying over there, having experience is never bad. Can be an advantage. Not always, but it could be.
Yes, yes.
We won't have a problem with this. The French government, provided you have a convincing story to provide here, will not have a problem to give the visa neither.
Sure.
In fact, I have had students up to 40, 45 who managed to come to MSc program with us. Yeah.
For the program with you. Yes, there's definitely then a correlation. Perfect. And also, Maud, within this program in itself, of because like you've mentioned that this is an experiential program. So do you have any exchange semester with another university, or do students? No. Okay.
You come in just for 1 year, and in fact, in 1 year, you will be doing all the courses and the experience. So there's a learning expedition that's 10 to 12 days where you might be going abroad, in fact, but that's it. I mean, we're certainly not going to send you, especially for a course that is so specialized, we're not going to send you in a different country for the academics, except for one, module that is part of the program. Yeah.
That is part of the program.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You have to make choices at some point. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Finally, I think we are almost nearing the close of the webinar. And I believe that most of these questions you've covered broadly. And for all our learners, if you would like some specific guidance on the program, my colleague Arushi, she has shared a link on the chat box. Please feel free to reach out to our counselors, and we'll be happy to help you more specifically with your profile and whatever guidance is it that you require. But one final question I'd take up here is with respect to part-time work rights. And how much is the part-time work rights that students are entitled to? And also, when you are doing because it's a work integrated program, so when you are doing that internship, do you also have a right to work on the site, with respect to part-time, or are you solely required to only do the internship? Yeah.
So the French law allows 20 hours per week on average. Okay. So that's one thing. So on average, so it's 9,046 hours a year or something like that. So it can be full-time as well. So with the program that we were mentioning, you could start with an apprenticeship. So I know there's some people who are asking about apprenticeship. Yes, you could eventually, but you need to come with a contract. You need to have a company who is ready to recruit you under that kind of contract. It may happen, but it's not that easy to do from India. But if you start from now and, eventually you'll find it. So that's one option. Here you are paid during the time you're working, but you'll be working the full year, 3 weeks per month in that company. So that's one option. So they pay your tuition fees and they pay you on top. That's an ideal option, of course. But we are making this program still available to you, where you pay your own tuition fees, and you are, welcome to eventually find an apprenticeship later on, but shorter, then start an internship from day one or in the first semester or up to March for the required number of hours in a year. And that means the time before you get that internship, you can work part-time, no problem. Okay. Once you have a part-time, the internship, I doubt you'll have much time to do 2 part-time job, because you still have to study. And you have the full-time work. It will be full-time. And they don't have you 1 week a month. So they will still be quite demanding. But if you have done a good job in, negotiating your stipend, should be enough.
That should be enough. Yeah, that's ideally what learners do part-time work for, to be able to maintain their living expenses. But yes, I think the internship is going to be covering for that.
Yeah. So I'm saying that for that program only, because it's because of the way it's organized.
Right.
And yes, the first trimester, if you don't have a contrat d'apprentissage, you're probably going to be quite free those 3 weeks, even though, of course, we add more French classes during that time and the career development activities during that first semester. If you were coming for a full-time degree, however, maybe you have that in mind. Just remember the kind of school you're going to. It's a triple accredited school, and you'll be doing your master in a very short time, and you still have to do within the year your internship of 4 to 6 months. So I don't think you'll have much time to have a part-time job, and I think you need to remember that you still need to be able to succeed in the studies. For instance, the 3 schools in India that are triple accredited are ISB. They have a 10 months program that costs 45 lakh INR.
Yeah.
I am Kolkata, 32 lakh for 2 years program, or 2 years program are 26 to 22 lakh. So it's already much less expensive. And I am in 30 lakh, okay? And I'm sure you would not dare a minute working part-time if you were accepted in one of those schools. So just think it through.
I know, think about it.
It's really much better that you, if you are a bit on a budget, choose the Rennes campus because it's less expensive in the first place. Concentrate on your studies, on being available for all the extracurricular activities that are available there. And that would maximize your chances to find the best internship as well. And then in internship, negotiate high.
Yes.
And then you'll be, covered for your cost of living while building your CV instead of becoming a French fries making expert in quite a lot of countries. Or, there's nothing bad about that, but I doubt you're doing a master with that. Just reminding that master we're talking about, that second year, full-time or work study, it's 13.5 lakh INR approx.
Yeah.
It's not that much.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
cost of living in Rennes, 6.5 lakh INR a year. So you see.
Absolutely. I think very helpful points out there. And I think our learners, and including me, we've been able to get a very excellent insight with respect to how, what the ROI is going to be if I were to pursue this program via what are the options. And some of these options are obviously very difficult to get into, like you mentioned, all the IIMs and ISB. So once again, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful hosting you. And we hope to
Thank you very much.
Meet again very soon. On that note, Maud, if you could just give your final thoughts for our learners. Anyone who's aspiring to Rennes. Yeah.
I think dare to choose France. I think we are very much ready to welcome you. There is a lot of for you to grasp from there. And Rennes School of Business is welcoming on average 200 Indian students every year. So you are going to a place that will know how to welcome you and would have a lot of alumni for you to reach out to. So yeah, choose France. And thank you very much, upGrad, for this opportunity to speak to your audience.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Maud, once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.